Hi, I'm Connie Dalton, Senior Planner with the Long Range Division of the Planning Office. I'm here today to talk to you about the housing chapter of the Comprehensive Plan. Let's get started. We are taking this opportunity to provide an update on our efforts along with our draft policy recommendations for consideration and input. In this presentation, we will review the demographic analysis and trends provided by the consultant, as this data served as a springboard to develop the draft policies of this chapter. The presentation will wrap up with information regarding the ongoing effort to draft an ADU, Affordable Dwelling Unit Ordinance, which is the primary implementation tool to ensure that the policies of the housing chapter are realized in the coming years. The county's vision is to be a community of choice for families, businesses, and workers in the region. The housing chapter updates are designed to support this vision and address the challenges of meeting the housing needs of all residents. The chapter goes beyond the sole focus on affordability and ensures that the implicit connections with mobility, environment, and health concerns are addressed to support the building of vital communities of choice. A comprehensive plan provides a vision to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the county. One component of the comprehensive plan is the housing chapter, which is a tool to guide and support developments with quality housing options for all. This is proposed to be accomplished by establishing policies that preserve existing communities. The chapter aims to respectfully understand and acknowledge the importance of our existing thriving neighborhood communities, identifying where infrastructure and improvements are needed in aging communities, and ensure thoughtful, context-sensitive infill developments. Secondly, by creating new communities that include a diversity of housing styles and price points to promote equitable, sustainable communities for residents during all phases of their life and across all income bands. The next policy is focused on affordability. This policy is designed to reduce the number of people living a cost-burdened lifestyle and ensure that a range of options and opportunities are available for all. The key implementation tool will involve successfully adopting an affordable dwelling unit ordinance, which is a concurrent, ongoing effort. The mobility policy component of the housing chapter is focused on the importance of encouraging transit-oriented communities that will bring jobs and housing together. Walkable, multimodal communities with easy access to desired services is a key to developing vital communities. This effort further supports the desire to recognize and address the impact that commuting costs have on residents in terms of their overall cost of living expenses, commuting time, as well as the impacts of commuting on the environment. The next policy is focused on establishing sustainable environmental growth practices as related to the housing initiative, which aligns directly with the goals of the recently adopted strategic plan for Prince William County, which identifies quality, sustainable development practices as a county-wide priority. And the last policy relates to health. The intrinsic relationship between quality housing and health is addressed to ensure that building healthy communities is an achievable priority that can be realized in an equitable manner for all residents of Prince William County. In developing this chapter, we must ascertain why is the housing chapter important. When advocating as a community for more price-appropriate housing, we should effectively communicate why this is so important. We should discuss the value of housing chapter, how it is the foundational element of economic resilience and competitiveness in local communities, how it improves the local tax base and stabilizes family units, how communities benefit from public investments, ensuring that equitable opportunities are available for individuals and families of all income levels. All households in Prince William County, regardless of income, should have a variety of housing options that they can afford. Implicit in this idea of attainability is the idea that a range of housing options, type, size, tenure, cost, should exist in the local market for a range of household incomes and preferences, and that housing is directly tied to public policy priorities such as economic development, education, environment, health, and transportation. And therefore, the housing chapter's primary goal is to provide a framework to provide for quality, priced, appropriate housing that costs 30% of the household's annual gross income or less, that meets the needs of all current and future residents at all stages of their lives. This slide depicts how Prince William County fits into the 2030 Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments regional housing targets. As reflected here, in the region, there is a 75,000 household unit shortfall beyond the current forecast to meet the projected need for 320,000 units in the region. The Prince William County share is 7,500 additional housing units. Additionally, COG set two targets: First, that at least 75% of all new housing should be in activity centers or near high-capacity transit. And a second target that at least 75% of all new housing should be affordable to low and middle income households. In developing new housing policies, consideration should be given to planning to address these regional goals for the benefit of both the region and for our residents. The county does not have sufficient lands under current zoning to accommodate the projected population growth by 2040. The 2040 projections continue to align with the previously discussed 2030 projections. There will be a shortage of approximately 19,400 housing units when utilizing COG's projections and the county build-out analysis. The housing shortage is projected to persist through 2040, which is the plan date for the Pathway to 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Understanding and addressing this projected shortage is a critical component of the Housing Chapter update. The consultants completed a comprehensive housing data analysis which resulted in developing 4 sub-reports entitled Demographic and Housing Analysis, Housing Affordability Analysis, Analysis of Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing, and Future Housing Demand Projections. These draft data analysis documents may be found on the planning webpage for Pathway to 2040 Housing. As part of this analysis, the consultants also identified 4 geographical housing submarkets in order to report out a more representative picture of the current trends and projections with respect to housing locations, affordability, demand, and supply. These geographic submarkets were established based on the character of the communities, housing market dynamics, census tract boundaries, as well as natural barriers such as major highways and roads. The submarkets were identified as Northwest, Greater Manassas, Central Prince William County, and the I-95 corridor submarket. With respect to the findings regarding the general population statistics, the consultants identified that Prince William County is aging. Median age has increased. It is currently 35.2 years old. This, however, is lower than the metro area. Prince William County is becoming more diverse, with the largest increase in the Hispanic Latino population. Prince William County is a white-only minority community. The male-female ratios are similar to metro area, and that across the board, the Prince William County numbers show that there is a larger percentage of younger people and a lower number in the 65-plus years category. Median household income by census tract is graphically depicted on this map. The 2020 median income in Prince William County varies by specific geographical areas, ranging from $145,844 in central Prince William County to $98,833 in the I-95 corridor. A review of the 2020 median household income shows that Prince William County is roughly the same as the MSA Metropolitan Statistical Area at $103,891. Additionally, the consultants noted that wage growth is not keeping pace with the cost of and demands for housing and families, particularly those that would be considered low or moderate income, are falling further and further behind. While statistics show that the percentage of cost-burdened households has decreased over the years in Prince William County, for example, in 2010, approximately 41% of households were cost-burdened, and in 2019, the rate dropped to approximately 32.4%. However, understanding that over 32% of Prince William County residents are cost-burdened reinforces the goals of the Housing Chapter to provide policies and action strategies to meet the housing needs of all residents. Some highlights of the demographic and housing trends as policies are developed include Prince William County housing stock is primarily single-family homes, but more multifamily housing is needed. I-95 submarket is disproportionately providing the most multifamily housing. The presence for large lot residential zoning, for example, 10-acre minimum lot sizes in the Northwest and Central Prince William County submarket, runs counter to housing equity and affordable housing goals. Land constraints are driving up land values. Most of the housing, 67% in the I-95 submarket, was constructed between 1960 and 1980. Over the next 20 years, much of this housing stock will be over 60 years old. Revitalization is key. Except for the Northwest, all other markets had over 50% cost-burdened renter households. Housing cost burden is on the rise among renter households. Some of the general housing affordability trends identified include that proportionally in the county, homeowner households have higher incomes, while renters experience challenges due to both the lower income levels and a lack of affordable housing options. However, statistics from 2010 and 2019 also indicate that there has been an increase in the number of homeowner households that are also challenged by low incomes. This same time period reflects the need for more renter households has grown on both the lowest and the highest ends of the income brackets. These trends speak to the need for some form of homeowner assistance, for example, for elderly homeowners or individuals with special needs that may have limited resources to make needed housing repairs. The ownership units, surplus, and gap analysis is depicted on this slide, where the blue line represents the number of available units and the orange represents the number of existing households. The differences are clearly portrayed in the respective AMI ranges. Lack of ownership units persists for households making 30% of AMI and below. Interestingly, the greatest lack of affordably priced housing occurs above the 120% of AMI, where the number of households is 2.5 times the number of housing units available for this group. The greatest housing surpluses occur in two cost bands, at both the 51 to 80% AMI and the 81 to 100% AMI. Therefore, what we are seeing is that the higher income households compete for surplus housing priced below their ability to pay, driving up the cost for families that fall in this bracket. This chart again reflects the rental unit surplus and gap analysis by reflecting the number of rental units and the number of rental households. The greatest rental needs are at the 30% AMI and below, where households exceed available rental units by 6 to 1. Rental surpluses also exist in both the 51 to 80% AMI and 81 to 100% AMI, which may require some lower income households to pay more than 30% of their gross income to rent, leading to a cost-burdened lifestyle. Rental unit shortages also exist at the 100% AMI and above. This data drives the policies designed to meet the needs of residents in all income bands and in both the rental and home ownership housing options. In one of the first public engagement efforts, an informal poll was taken of the participants to ascertain which was the most important factor with respect to affordable housing. Near transit services was ranked the highest at 45%, followed by housing costs at 22%. The other two options, fits into the neighborhood and quality of construction, came in at 18% and 15% respectively. Utilizing the statistics, survey data, and input from numerous community engagement events, the following preliminary housing policies have been proposed. Feedback and input is being requested as the process continues to move forward. The following slides provide draft policies that are being considered. Draft Housing Policy 1 addresses neighborhood revitalization and redevelopment. This policy states, preserve and improve existing neighborhoods with a focus on maintaining the character of the neighborhood. Housing Policy 2 focuses on new developments with an emphasis on building diverse housing communities. The draft policy states, promote a diverse housing mix throughout the county by encouraging a range of housing sizes and types that meet the needs of citizens at all income levels throughout all stages of life, including quality housing opportunity for special populations. When discussing affordable housing, the area median income, AMI, thresholds are utilized. AMI, area median income, is a tool utilized to define income limits in several housing subsidy programs. 30% of AMI and below is defined as being extremely low income. Moderate income is defined as 81% to 100%. This slide depicts the salary ranges of three-person households, providing examples of types of employment opportunities based on the given salary, and then depicts the amount of money a family of three should spend to own or rent a home, such that no more than 30% of the total income is dedicated to housing expenses. When a household spends more than 30% of their gross income on housing, they are generally cost-burdened, and this impacts the ability to pay for other household necessities such as food, clothing, transportation, and medical care. Severe rent burden is defined as paying more than 50% of one's income on housing cost. As an example, a firefighter with a salary of $61,289 a year falls into the 50 to 80% AMI, and therefore the recommended price point of 30% of this salary for housing would suggest that a home ownership fall in the $230,544 to $294,935 band, and rental rates should fall between $1,366 and $1,746 for a three-person household. This slide helps to understand the relationship between a household's income and the realistic expectation of what a household of three should spend on housing such that they are not cost burdened. Housing Policy 3 addresses the affordability component. The draft policy states, encourage the provision of price-appropriate, affordable housing for all segments of the county's population with emphasis on households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. Create or preserve 75% of homes as affordable to low and moderate incomes by 2040 and increase the overall supply throughout the county. Housing Policy 4 addresses the importance of the relationship between mobility and housing. Draft Policy 4 states, strategically locate diverse housing types near transportation and employment centers to build equitable, comprehensive, multimodal communities, reducing transportation expenses for cost-burdened residents. To understand the importance of the mobility policy, this slide addresses the cost of commuting, which depicts that when people move further out to afford a home, not only does their cost of commuting increase, but the quality of their life also is impacted by the time spent commuting. In thinking about this relationship, we may ask, how does the location near transit support equitable growth? General planning practices suggest that the combined cost of housing together with transportation expenses should not exceed 42% of income. That not only is there a demand for more price points and building types, but there's also a demand for more neighborhoods that offer housing plus amenities like shopping and transit. That Americans of all generations are moving toward the 15-minute community where they can live, work, and play in the same place, and that there is a need to shift the focus from planning around cars to preparing for more public transportation, ride-sharing, biking, and walkable streets to serve the residents. Draft Policy 5 addresses sustainability, environmental growth. Draft Policy 5 states, build environmentally sustainable housing communities with a variety of housing types, densities, locations, and affordability to ensure a safe and livable environment for all residents. The sixth housing policy is focused on the importance of building healthy communities. Draft Policy 6 states, design a community's built environment in a manner to positively influence the physical and mental health of its residents based on the guiding principles of quality, stability, affordability, and location. Housing Policy 7 will identify the regulatory changes needed to successfully implement the adopted housing policies. This draft policy states, support innovation and streamline processes to meet housing goals. The primary tool for implementing the vision of affordable housing for all is the adoption of an ADU, Affordable Dwelling Unit Ordinance, designed to holistically meet the needs of Prince William County. In general terms, an ADU ordinance would require developers to set aside a portion of the units for rent or purchase by families with low to moderate incomes. In exchange, the county would provide incentives for developers, for example, allow for a bonus density. Staff, together with input from the community, is working with the consultants to develop an ADU ordinance. The consultant has provided staff with background data, state code requirements, and a summary of ADU ordinances found in sister jurisdictions. The next step of the process is to provide parameters for the following policy levers that will affect the relative impact, ease of use, and market penetration. The policy levers that need to be addressed include, first, establish which development proposals would be impacted by the ordinance. Second, determine the type and number of incentives needed to ensure the development of affordable dwelling units. Third, determine the target number of the total units that should be affordable, for example, 20%. Fourth, establish the threshold income level that should be applied to the ADUs, for example, 60% of AMI. Fifth, set the length of time that units should remain affordable. State code requires a minimum of 15 years and a maximum of 50 years. And finally, identify additional options and alternatives for developers, for example, to make a cash payment in lieu of constructing affordable dwelling units. The next step will then be to provide the policy lever feedback to the consultant in order for them to develop an ADU outline in layman's terms for review and comment by staff and the community. Utilizing this input, a draft ordinance will be prepared in formal zoning code language for presentation to the board. As a wrap-up, it's all connected. Housing is an important element in every single goal. The housing chapter, as part of the Pathway to 2040, establishes a framework for providing for the housing needs of all residents of Prince William County. These needs are expressed in terms of quality, affordability, accessibility, location, equity, and sustainability. Price-appropriate housing is a valuable economic resource that benefits the entire community. It is a foundational element for economic resilience and provides the competitive edge for our community within the region. For more information about this topic, please visit our Pathway to 2040 webpage at www.pwcgov.org/Pathway to 2040. If you want to send us comments, please use the online comment form or send us an email to pathway2040@pwcgov.org. Thank you.